Hello everyone, it's Mishak, and today we'll be running a presentation about how to set up the web platform integrated with Olive framework as a part of the DigiFoF project. As in the previous cases, I'll be moderator and speaker. And before the actual part of the demo begins, I would like to make sure that everything is fine from a technical point of view. So we are using GoToMeeting. All the microphones are by default muted. And I would like to make sure you can see my screen, whether you can hear me. So it would be awesome if you could expand the right pane of the webinar and let me know whether you can hear me and see everything properly. So please let me know if everything is okay from technical point of view. I see confirmations, thank you very much, so we can continue. Today, we'll be covering more technical aspects than in previous cases. So we'll be telling about how does the DigiFoF web portal look like, what are the elements, and how to set up the portal. So let's do it like this. I'll start with a brief introduction of what is a DigiFoF web portal, what are the elements, how can it look like. Then I'll briefly go the technical documentation that is provided as a part of the package and show you how to set everything up. Then we'll have a time for a brief summary and of course for a Q&A session. So the presentation part should take about 20 to 30 minutes. Afterwards, if you want to, of course, we can have Q&A session. So this is our plan for today. Now, to set up the stage for our discussion today, I would like to quote one of the slides from the past webinars. So as you know, OMI Labs are helping us create competencies in a part of the DigiFoF project. There will be several OMI Labs, and each OMI Lab has several aspects. There is a scenario layer, there is a conceptual model layer, a runtime layer, there is a software, there are application domains. In the previous webinars, you could see, for example, how you could use ADXX to plan several things, how you can use scene to model or other elements to plan what will be there and to make sure that everything runs. You could also see in the presentation that was done previously how we can, on the runtime layer, use the dobots or mbots or other actual robots doing some elements which are being controlled by all the software. You could also see how does the BApp tool work and also how do the tangible aspects like those visible here influence everything. But part of the package that is used in the OMI Labs is Olive. And this is what we'll be covering today. So what do we need? For each of the labs, we need a web portal where people can see several things. For example, they can see information about this lab, they can see information about events, about trainings, about projects, about jobs, and so on and so on. For technical reasons, we have split it into two elements. So I'll be showing you an installation of only one of those, but it will be very, very similar for the second one. So we have a portal and a brokerage. Generally, of course, you can install both if you want to have everything. If for some reasons you're not interested in events or jobs or whatever, you could also install only one of those, the portal, and you'll have the basic ones, but without the more advanced with brokerage. So those two elements work together and support one another. So this is how it works. Now let me show you a quick demo of how the page like this could look like. Here you can see example page running on our server showing how the lab could look like. Of course, this is very simple because this is only for the presentation purposes, but afterwards you will see how we can very easily extend elements of pages like this and add new ones. So you will see that you can welcome people on your homepage, you can provide the About section, and also you have many points where you can provide overviews. And this is very powerful and important because here is where you can put the grid with the projects. For each project, you can provide more information. So you can have some name, description, but also, as you can see, for each project, you could also provide downloads, you could provide more information so that people interested in the project that you're doing can easily take a look and get inspired. So for example, all the elements that we're working on, so for example, working with robotic arms, making burgers, or making some smart city related projects, or things like this, can be then shown as a project on your page, and then people interested can go see all the information that they need, download what they want, and have everything easily accessible. In a very similar manner, you could allow those people to watch the events that you're planning. So they can go and see what are the upcoming events. If you have any kind of trainings, you can also put those trainings online, and then people can see what kind of trainings do you offer. And last but not least, you can publish jobs. As you can see, each of those pages is kind of grid. So far, we have only one element, but if there were more elements, they will be shown in a grid form like here. So we have one event and second event. If you have more, they are placed properly. Very powerful thing that you will see in a moment is that we are not working on a classic content management systems that you could perhaps see in other places. So this is something much more powerful, make your life much easier, especially if our concern is to allow interchange of information between various instances of such portals. So that, for example, several various OMI labs can share information about their training. Now, let me show it to you how it could look like. So as I told you, we have two parts, portal and brokerage. And now, how does it look like from a technical point of view? Since we want to achieve such level of cooperation, we cannot use just a plain web page running WordPress or Joomla or any content management system that you could be using at your company or university. Instead, we are having two elements for each of those. So for portal and for brokerage. Each of them consists of two elements. The front end. The front end, obviously, defines what will be the look and feel, how people will be able to register with, for example, CAPTCHA, so to avoid bots and spam registrations and things like this that you could expect, but also the backend. And the backend is being powered by the Olive and additionally by a headless content management system called Strapi. So this is very important. Afterwards, when you get the packages, you will see that each of those packages, so here you can see a package for web portal, brokerage, and here only web portal. So each of those web packages consists of two elements. So here you have a front end. So you have some HTML files, you have some JavaScripts, and also you have a backend. This is where actually most things are being done. So this is what will be allowing you to make the content. So the idea is like this. With the front end, you can define what will be the look and feel of your web page, and you can configure certain elements like, for example, user registration. By the way, this is using Google reCAPTCHA mechanism, so this is pretty powerful and pretty advanced when it comes to battling spam bots. But the real magic happens in the backend, where Olive and Strapi are working together. So what does it offer to us? As I told you, it is not a plain web page where you log in to the admin when you create pages, when you're using only predefined templates, and there is only that much that you can do. Instead, a approach like this with headless CMS is something that gives you much flexibility. It allows you to support many types of content. So for example, you could have special pages where you'll be having videos, and pages with text, pages with HTML, and many others. The powerful feature of approaches like this, of using Olive and Strapi, is that it allows you to focus on APIs and microservices. So, in practice, you can create your content in a backend without worrying that much how it will be shown, because this is something that is handled on the front end. So people who are providing content don't need to worry about the look and feel, and people who are for the look and feel don't need to tie their hands to make sure that everything is properly done on a second page, because those two elements are exchanging data using APIs, so interfaces between those applications. What is very powerful is that you can also use this API first approach and microservices to combine elements. So as I told you, it is possible that we have several labs, and one of those labs will be offering overview of all the trainings that are happening in those labs. So you don't need to recreate those elements. You don't need to give your colleagues access rights to your own CMS so that they put their own trainings. You don't need to worry about stuff like this, because those various CMSs can be sharing this information about trainings, jobs, and so on, can be either published only on your site, or they can be put together and published in one place. So this is a very powerful approach of showing the content without worrying about the presentation. So this is why we have decided to split the front end and the back end. Obviously, now it's time to show it to you. How should you set it up? Before we dive in, a few words of caution. This part will be a little bit more technical than the elements you could see so far. So far we were showing, for example, how do the labs look like, how you could use the AutoXX, how you could use the various configuration options. So we had a BApp, we had other elements, but so far it was everything more or less business friendly. So we did not need to worry about the technical aspects. The thing is that now we are working with slightly more technical stuff. So if something looks complicated, please do not worry. There is a technical documentation available. I will show it to you in a little while. To make sure that everything runs and actually does the stuff, you will need two elements. Actually three, but two of them are available together. So what you will need. Those technical aspects that need to be run require something called Node.js. And this is something that is available with something called npm. So you can go to node.js.org. Here, you can learn more about what is Node.js. You can download it, you can see the documentation, and so on and so on. In our technical documentation, we are recommending which version is the best, so that you can be sure that what you are working is current, up-to-date, and proper. So Node.js is a engine that allows you to run JavaScripts, which are creating some applications. So this is one element. The second element that you'll need is a database where you'll be storing stuff. So for this purpose, we are using PostgreSQL, and to download it, simply go to postgresql.org. Here again, you can go to downloads, and also you can learn more about Postgre. So you will finish with two elements, with a Node.js, and this is installer package, and PostgreSQL. I'll be showing you presentation. I'll be showing you installation on the Windows platform, but also you could do it using Ubuntu 18. And one final remark. I'll be showing you parts of the installation on local machine, but generally, the most important thing is that this is something you would be normally installing on a web server. Because if you are running it from a local machine, some elements may not work. You will need to do some extensions because for safety purposes, this is not how you normally operate portals. So I'll be showing you to run several elements, but to make it run in a, let's say, production environment, don't put it on your local machine, put it on the web server where you have everything properly configured. So when you have those two elements, you can install them. It doesn't require any significant effort. You just install it, you just go through it. With Node.js, you will also get NPM, so something that allows you to work with packages available for Node.js. And for Postgre, you will also only need to recall the password that you set up for the default user, so for the Postgres user. This is something that will be afterwards very, very useful. So write it down and don't forget it. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm assuming that you'll set up the password for Postgres user, also Postgres. But of course, it is not very safe in a production environment, so you can change it to anything. Okay, when I have it done, it is time to take a look at the technical documentation. So I will give you a brief overview of how does it look like, and then I will show you a simple example of how you could approach the installation. Of course, I won't be going with you with all the steps because this is, as I told you, a little bit technical, but I want to give you a quick glimpse of what you may expect. So now I may close this one. And here, let me open the documentation. Now you should be seeing the PDF version of documentation. As you can see, it contains all the more technical aspects. So which version of Node.js, which version of NPM, which version of Postgres are recommended, and how you can do the installation. As I told you, it is split into two pages, so the backend and the frontend. The backend is using Strapi and Olive, and the frontend just governs how it will look like. So the important thing that you will need to learn about is how to run all those elements. Probably the most useful tool for you will be Windows PowerShell, so something that you have by default on your machine if you're using Windows. The command prompt, it may be a little bit more technical, a little bit more problematic for you. So please try to use the PowerShell. So I already have installed DigiFoF Web Portal Brokerage, so I will show you how I could approach installing DigiFoF Web Portal itself. So I will go to the place where I expanded the folder. And now I need to go to the folder with actual web portal. This is version 2nd. Now I want to install it. Now it gets a little bit more tricky, so don't worry. I click here because I want to run PowerShell in this folder. Otherwise, I would need to open the PowerShell. I would need to do so. I would need to open the PowerShell and change the place in the context of which I want to run it. So instead, I'm simply opening the folder, and here I click and write PowerShell without spaces. Okay, and hit enter. Now, as you can see, I already have open window of Windows PowerShell, and it is working in the context of my folder. By the way, inside of this folder, you will have lots of options. So for example, in the config, you will have information about the environment. So I could specify, for example, that for a production, my database will be using certain elements. So this is now on my local host. So this is the address of my local machine. I'm assuming that I'm using default port, so 5432. I'm using the database called DigiFoF, and I have a Postgres user with a Postgres password. Of course, obviously, as I told you, this is not the safest configuration, so this is only for the presentation purposes. Normally, when you would run it on a server, don't use passwords like this. This is only for the presentation. If you want to make sure that everything runs, you can also open your pgadmin to see what is inside your Postgres. And here, I already created the database DigiFoF, but if you would like to, you could create a new one, call it properly. The thing is that you need to make sure that the Postgres user has access to your database. So your database, for example, DigiFoF or DigiFoF2 or whatever, should have Postgres as an owner. Otherwise, it may not work properly. So this is an important thing that you need to be aware of. So after we installed Postgres, after we installed Node.js, now we can go to our PowerShell. And now let's play a bit. What we need to do now is to make sure that the actual application will be created. So first, we'll run the command npm install. This is also something that you have in the documentation. So we are calling the Node package manager, and we want to so npm install. It normally takes some time, and you should have something like this. So simply watch how does it progress. Now it is downloading all the necessary elements. It is preparing for the installation. Since I'm using the default options, as I told you, and I have shown you, my configuration of the database is default. I don't need, so I can continue with this one. Or if you would like to, we could create a database DigiFoF2. So we'll create other DigiFoF database, and here we'll have another instance for our second portal. So let's create it. Okay. Looking good. We have the new database and we'll use it for our new portal. Okay. Did it finish? Yes. It is finishing. So in a second it should be done. As I told you, it requires some patience. Here we have, since this is just a demo, I won't be dealing with the vulnerabilities, but normally I would be fixing it to make sure that all my packages are up to date. But here we don't need to worry about this because this is just a presentation. Now we installed it. We are sure that the database is properly set, so I didn't need to change anything. So now what I want to do is to provide proxy details if I would like to be sending emails. Now I'm just doing presentation. I won't be sending any emails, so I don't need to worry about the proxy. But again, on the server, you would need to do it because otherwise people would not get emails from you. I think that is also out of scope for us currently, but normally you would need to plan it also. Now I want to run it. So I put here npm run and build. Again, it takes some time. And in a second, it will create content that I will be able to run on production. So it requires a little bit of patience. But the nice thing is that if you configure it properly, you don't need to worry about it that much. This is also something that you can ask your IT colleagues to do, and you can only provide content. In a second, I'll show you how does the actual process of adding content look like, and it is not that technical. You don't need to worry about a terminal, about a command line, and about stuff like this. So you can leave elements like this for your more IT-oriented colleagues. Okay, it is nearly done. As you can see, I don't have that much to click, so generally this is the matter of adding just a few commands and everything works, everything happens by its own. You just need to have a little patience just to wait till it happens, till it's done. Okay, it looks like we are almost done. In the meantime, I'll tell you that, of course, after you install it, you may want to also have some content in your system. So, for the brokerage, if you would select the brokerage option, you could go here, and inside the migration, you would see the migration brokerage SQL. It contains the example content that you could use. So if you would like to, you could simply go to your Postgres, and here use the query tool to simply paste those commands, and it will put everything inside your database so that all the content would be there. I won't be doing it, but I will show you in a second already pre-configured content on the web page and the backend that allows you to run it. Okay, let's see. Yes, we have it. So everything is compiled and ready to rock. So now I need to run the production. So npm run production. Now this one should. And assuming everything runs properly, I can go to localhost on a port 1337/admin, and it will allow me to configure necessary elements. And this is the page where I can register my user, and afterwards I would have access to the admin toolkit. Now, in order not to bore you to death, I won't be going through each and every step of the installation, because this is how it works. So we just the steps, install necessary components, and run them. Instead, I want to use the time that we still have to show you how does the backend look like when you already have it installed. So here you can see that I have the actual running example page, and this is my backend. What you see here. Inside, you see the elements which you can edit. So I see list of events, I see a list of menus, I see a list of available grids. So as you can see, trainings, events, jobs, projects. So those are those elements here. And now let's assume that I would like to change something on my web page. So something most of. I'll change this part. So this is a simple static HTML page, which is being used on the home page. So here I simply go to HTML pages, and here you can see that I have two of them. One of them is home, and second is about. The powerful thing with this is that you can very simply create and edit them. So here I'll go to home, I click it, either here or I click the small icon here. And now I can change the name, I can make it invisible, I can change the content. So to be visible, I'll make like this, and maybe let's add some code. So maybe it will be emphasized. So here I can either use simple text, or as here I can use some HTML tags to properly style it. Let me save it. And now, voila, as you can see, I have the new text and also the new look and feel. The important thing is that what I'm doing in the backend is only matter of content. So I only configure that I want to have the text like this, and it should be emphasized. How exactly will it look like? Whether it will be big text, small text, whether it will be Arial or other font, how the look and feel will be, this is defined by the front end. So this is the powerful element. I'm working with the content, but the actual presentation is being done in another place. So let's assume I would like to do something with the jobs, or maybe with some trainings. So here you can see the overview, and if we would like to change something, it works like this. I simply go to Jobs, and I can either create a new job or click on the existing example. So let's assume that we want to have a job for, let's say, IoT engineer. And here you can specify the types. Those types and all other elements are also predefined here, so you can easily define what will be available for the people. So for the business user, they simply click create new options. They don't need to worry about other elements. If we would like to add some file, some picture, we could do it here. So let's do it like this. And voila, you can see the new elements. Now, if you would like to create some project, I could go to projects, create a new one, and here you can see all the elements that I can put. If I want to, I can also edit existing project. So here you can see that I have something slightly more sophisticated. So far, I had only text and I had some example picture. Here, I have uploaded the actual file. So I simply clicked here to add the new file. And here, I added two elements. So I have some extract, description, I have some download option. So here, I could put some file. So this is how we can link elements together and make them run. So this is what is powerful with this approach. You can create any kind of structure on the backend that you want to, and then make it look properly using the front end. And your backend can communicate not only with your front end, but also with other portals, serving information about jobs, about trainings, and things like this. So this is the concept that we wanted to show you. And now, as a summary, I won't just give you 2 words of how it will be extended. So we'll be offering you the package. So those will be 2 folders that you could see already. You also have the technical documentation that I was using. So you can go step by step to install it on your own machines if you want it. And afterwards, you can configure how your portal will be working, whether you want to have also the brokerage or do you want to have the plain version, and maybe do you want to perhaps take some data from other portals using the API calls that is also available. So you can start with setting up your portal. Of course, we'll be helping you if it is needed, and afterwards you can extend it, add more data, add information about your projects, experiments, about the jobs, about trainings, and this way you can easily show what are you doing within the DigiFoF projects. Now it's time for Q&A. So we still have 4 minutes. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer. So far, I don't see any questions, so maybe I'll answer the question that was asked before the session began. So why is it called headless CMS? So what we are using here is called headless CMS. So like with the body that has a head, those content management systems like Olive and Strapi that are being presented, that were being presented today, are working like this, that they allow you to focus on the content, so the body, but the presentation, so head, is done somewhere else. So this is why they are called sometimes headless content management systems. This is, by the way, a pretty modern way of working with web pages, of working with content, because you don't need to worry about the presentation. You can create content and other elements can deal with the presentation aspects. Okay, see any more questions? So I would like to thank you very much for participation and invite you to work within our DigiFoF network. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye bye.